How you doing? It's day 157 of 365 days towards racial change. My name is Thomas Nyback. Let's get right to it. We're talking about black issues in America. Two thoughts emerge as I continue it in this project. First thought has two parts. First part is, does the black mind from the slavery days, times in America proper? Because I feel slavery has continued just in a lot of diluted and watered down forms, very powerful and effective, but slavery hasn't, we're not that far away from slavery. Anyway, does the slave mind exist in black Americans today? Do black Americans still live in a way that totally supports and is under the control of white power? So the flip side of that same coin is the white mind, expectation of power, privilege, favor, moving through a system. The system in America was created by white people, administered by white people, and it supports, and white people are primarily the recipients within the system. Everybody else kind of gets some leftovers. Black gets their leftovers last. Further, I'm concerned about black financial literacy. Do blacks understand how money works? Money's the big literacy you want to get a hold of. You want to understand, I don't know, the taxes. Anyway, start anywhere with financial. Go beyond a bank account and savings. Understand having some financial vehicles that will outpace inflation, understanding, um, what's passive income, what's cash flow, what's residual income, doing your best to keep away from being a victim of working and having your money work for someone else. I'm hoping I get to a place where I can really come at some of these big institutions in America, insurance, car insurance, especially. That's kind of something on my mind, is how, you want me to pay this extra two something a month, and I'm a safe driver. It's like, wow, but they really justify it. It's like, what kind of job do you got to work to still live comfortably and in your right mind give these people this money over such a long period of time? I mean, wow, how many buildings and wings on their headquarters are they building off your support? You never had an accident, you know, and things like that go on. So that kind of, well, car insurance really gets my goat because I drive well. Okay. Well, financial literacy. I'm getting your head around international markets, international money. Where's money go? Federal Reserve, some of those big macroeconomic issues. Dabble in those at least. Um, so at least we're in the system. Um, it's like breathing oxygen. We breathe oxygen. We breathe air, I should say, to live, and we've got to be just as we have no choice, right? Um, we have to make adjustments to care for the air and things like that. Same way if we're in America, we got to be in the system, maneuver in the system, and all that. Doesn't mean we have to agree with it, but it's just we can self-determine more of our um, issue, more of our way, if we get some literacy under our belt. I'm a musician as well, so I have access to maybe some more advanced musical ideas through literacy, voice leading, harmony, pitch, tempo, beat, things like that. Those are important things for me to understand as I approach my instrument and music as a whole. Literacy, very important. Oh, anyway, I think I digressed. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. I've read 3 of his works. First book I'm going to hold up is a book. If you get any of his works, get this one. I believe it'll light you a fire under you. If not, I'm going to check your pulse. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. And so we reference this book. Hopefully we can get to all 101 questions before the year is out. I didn't do the math on my schedule yet. That's another story. But we're in this book today, page 15, talking about Dr. Martin Luther King. We talk about Dr. King, civil rights, social integration a lot here consistently. There's just a few themes here, really. So that's where we're at today. Second book I read was Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice. We referenced that book as well, and we referenced Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com and the Heritage Institute in Washington, D.C. Behind me, you see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You find Black women supporting each other and conversing there. Essentially, I got to check in and see how that's going. I just check in once in a while. Also, check out Black Enough. There are plenty of Black platforms, but Black Enough came to my attention some months ago. BLAGGENUF, and see what's going on with our folks there. If you're here on the web, search around if you can. Look for your community, your voice. If you can't find your community, your voice, do what I did. Start your own. I got a handful, private email list of people who have access to the videos. I got to see what's going on with Google. I think we're still public. And finally, we take a fictional look at slave life in America, see if there are any parallels in the 21st century. Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harry Beecher Stowe's phenomenal work, very important. And I like having story time as well. A Black History Reader, Dr. King's colorblind dream. The specific question is that by Dr. Anderson is, did Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s colorblind dream take the focus off of Black rights? If you're new, if this is the first video you've seen about this, you're not going to expect the answer, but if you've hung around for 150 so days, then you actually know the answer. But Dr. Anderson is very adamant and consistently revisits this theme actually all through his 3 books and what I've seen on the videos. You can see him here on YouTube as well. So he doesn't have a whole lot of good things to say about the civil rights movement, social integration movement, and all that. And I just something struck me today as I was creating today's post, and that is that maybe Dr. King's colorblind dream was a Trojan horse in some way, maybe by appearing to surrender some of the control and intent of civil rights, Black interest, and things like that. He was actually illuminating, really bringing into more vivid detail America's racist ways. Maybe during this talk we'll see if that may be true as well. But overall, we're going to, I agree with Dr. Anderson that civil rights, social integration was a drastic failure for black folks in America. And this colorblind dream and focus on black rights issue here that we're going to talk about today is going to be a big part of that. Now the problem what we've talked about consistently, one of the issues, and this is an issue that comes up when there are groups, I talk to friends who are confused, maybe even hurt a little, that blacks would want to be very exclusive about determining their own way of getting help and accessing wealth and resources in America. You know, they say other groups, LGBTQ, immigrants, and all this, may argue that they are an aggrieved group. Therefore, we are all in a big aggrieved melting pot of groups who feel disadvantaged, disenfranchised by the American system. That's an outgrowth of what happened through the 60s and Dr. King's some of Dr. King's arguments, and what we need to get back to, what Dr. Anderson says, what I kind of believe as well, is blacks need to be more exclusive, to find their own way of change, to be more, have some more potency. And the example, we get examples from other groups, plenty. The Hmong, Vietnamese, Japanese, Chinese, the Asians, Arabs, Hispanics, they all have their own community, and look how they grow and prosper and all these things. You know, it's interesting that people scratch their heads when black people suggest that they do the same. So the bring that all around is the problem with dilution. If we are diluting, or when we have these people come in, lock arms with us as though we are the same, presenting ourselves as the same people with the same arguments, the same issues, it's diluting the potency and potential for blacks to get what they really are after: wealth and resources, self-determination in America. Our LGBTQ people, well-meaning, but they have a rainbow, and it's nice, one rainbow, and they move as a unit and all that, and they're expressing and coming out and want to live openly as who they are, which is great. But the black issue isn't an identity, a sexual issue, all these things. The black issue is a skin color, and we've been disenfranchised, oppressed, murdered, raped, just on this alone. It's very apparent, and there are the nation's documents names us specifically as people who will or will not have access and participation in the American dream. So Dr. King, what the issue is with Dr. King is that he deflected and he diluted, and his altruistic spirit. He's a Baptist preacher, so this altruistic spirit came out and started including all kinds of people. He respected Gandhi, and Jesus, but he didn't stick to their potency idea. Gandhi was for the people of India, not necessarily all people. He had a global message, but his work was specifically to get the Indian people out from under British rule. Okay, Dr. King, he deflected. Somehow some poison got in there, and he begged off some of the momentum that they had. I'll tell you something. Maybe now, as far as the Trojan horse issue that Dr. King, I don't think it was a conscious thing, but uh, this dilution of the message of black self-determinism, wealth, resources in America, and what we can use it as a learning experience. I want to use three. I'm an amateur astronomer, and with astronomy goes space travel. Three incidents I'm going to just briefly talk about. I think you can follow along no matter where you are with space and looking up. January 27th, 1967, the Apollo 1 capsule had three guys in there. And they caught on fire and they couldn't get them out, so three guys dead. So they had to work on safety systems. Whatever system was in place didn't work. January 28th, 1986, Challenger blew up on liftoff, the shuttle. Boom. It was my last year in high school, wrapping up. February 1st, 2003, Columbia on reentry, burned up. You thought that's the most amazing fireworks you'd ever seen. Killed that crowd. I think there were 6 or 7. All these disasters were almost necessary so that we could address things like, locking mechanisms, ice buildup on rockets, O-rings, these little things that we maybe didn't pay enough attention to, and all that were addressed. So it's highly unlikely, at least, that if there is a disaster, it's probably not going to be based on these former incidents. Dr. King's civil rights, I won't call it a disaster, just a failure, a learning experience, and black people need to get back to the potency of their need for exclusivity, and getting their message right, and consistent, and specific to black folks. Dr. King has, he gave the ultimate sacrifice, believed in what he was doing, and all that. Dr. Anderson cites an interesting development where Dr. King apparently he proposed a Bill of Rights for the disadvantaged. And, this is the idea that the language, this watered down language, because who is not disadvantaged in America? White men are doing well, right? In general, overall, everybody else is struggling and has complaints. So, when Dr. King proposes those kind of initiatives, like, we know what he's talking about, but nevertheless, it opens the door for everybody and their mother to come trampling on in. And black skin being the least preferred color in America gets quickly pushed aside, minimized, all that in as it's cast into this big melting pot of other disadvantaged folks. Had he said Bill of Rights for blacks, that would have been different. We can back up to late 1920s. There was a proposal to the black leaders made a proposal to the federal government to have a Negro Bill of Rights. That's black folks specifically. You know, you have these white handicaps wanting to be called Negroes. The LGBTQ communities called Negroes. We're gonna have to put an N in there. You know, LGBTQ and where's that? You don't see that. It's just LGBTQ. So um, there is the fundamental problem. It's obviously going to take a whole year for us to really get this idea that we don't no longer want help or need help, and all these um, initiatives that deflect and dilute away, take away from um, ministering to black needs effectively. That's Dr. Anderson's argument in a sense here. Dr. King with proposals like Bill of Rights for the disadvantaged and all these global terms and stuff. He just opens the door for everybody but black folks. Amazing, you know. So what I'm hoping is that we look at the '60s and see those initiatives and learn from them, and hopefully a movement can be made. We're not hating. This is not a hate channel by any means. We are just objectively looking at the issues to make black life better. These other groups don't need black help. Don't really want it either. Not if you really get down to it. But they love using the language and love appearing as aggrieved as black folks, which they're not. They propose initiatives and changes and stuff, and it's amazing. Their needs and their rights go through Congress and materialize almost overnight. But black folks don't get reparations, barely get apologies. Um, Ancestors uh, twice or three times removed get a shout out about incidents like Rosewood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, these communities that were sacked and bombed uh, for no, for no big, huge reason except just some reason for white people to go and do that. That's the problem. So, Dr. King's language, sure is more than that. There's some language about the Cubans coming into Florida and pushing out black folks from businesses and places. We don't get treated fairly in some of these business grants. We're not educated about what's going on out there consistently like that. Contracts we could get with uh, county, state, federal governments, things like that. You know, um, Finally, we're going to just talk about how this language, well, Dr. King did so much work for the white establishment when he starts introducing terms like disadvantage, and then they pick up and further move that into language to talk about multicolor, people of color, immigrants, and all that. All these people are disadvantaged, and they come in and supplant black folks in business, in physical space, and all that. Hence, like yesterday, we talked about 60,000 homeless people on the streets of Los Angeles. It's going to be an interesting summer. But anyway, with this language, whites are absolved of their 13th Amendment obligations. 13th Amendment abolished slavery. Their language is pretty specific in there. Well, with this language of inclusion, diversity, disadvantaged, um, slavery is almost non-existent. It's almost like it never happened because now America is just ministering to all these groups and folks in America. Very sad. I mean, I'm glad people are getting what they need, but us black folks need to educate ourselves about this problem with dilution and deflection. Um, uh, put Dr. King's work in its place with this little statue, nice white statue on the mall, and the tumultuous '60s, Dr. King's life, a lot of lives got wrapped up in that, and begin to reclaim that as a learning experience and not as an event, a sustainable event. It's just a learning experience versus this sustainable event that we use as precedent to say that this is how black folks get what it is they're looking for, which it is not. Far from it. That's all I'm going to say about it today, because we talk about this on a lot of sides. Problem of dilution with other groups helping us and all that. The problem of language and how it opens the door for other groups. Some of these other groups are hostile to black folks. There are elements, portions of the Hispanic community that publicly are devoted to becoming the new minority in America and things like that. So these are some things we got to be interested and pay attention to. If we just give ourselves just a few minutes a day to educating ourselves, we'd be okay. But we got smartphones. You're probably looking at this on a smartphone or a smart device and whatnot, and we're very distracted. And we see our billionaire rappers and talk show hosts, game show hosts, athletes, and we think we're doing well. We're living a vicarious life through them and doing our best to deny our own surroundings, because on the screen we have representatives and stuff like that. We got to get better at that. We got to kind of snap out of our stupor. That's all I'm going to say about it today. We're going to talk more about this definitely, more than once in the remaining year. My name's Tomlin's Nyback. Thank you for coming back with me today. That's day 157 out of the way. 365 days towards racial change. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.